how to talk about legalizing cannabis, how to use cannabis suppositories, and the upcoming Sensible BC campaign, all part of this week's Cannabis Digest video review. When cops don't care, what to do when your rights are being violated. This article is by Callie Walton. It's our first of the week. In this article, Callie talks to a member of the BC Civil Liberties Association about your rights when arrested and how to protect them if you go to court. So in this article, Callie lays out a few suggestions that you should check out, and the lady who she spoke to said this. The judge, I think, was really just happy to see actually somebody fighting for a fair trial. So many people make their deals with the Crown before even setting foot in the courtroom. I think he was glad there was actually somebody utilizing the justice system. So these are good things to know. Cannabis prohibition threatens us all. So thanks, Callie. We're moving right along to Ted Smith's video of the week. Ted Smith's textbook can be found online on hempology.ca store. And this particular chapter, he's on the history of cannabis, the Club de Hachachine. And these were 19th century intellectuals in France who had began experimenting with cannabis, some of the first people to be able to do that since the Dark Ages. So a really interesting flowering of culture, particularly I'll name Alexander Dumas. I know Dumas, he wrote some pretty great books. They were influenced by Aleister Crowley. The Psychology of Hashish is one of the books mentioned. And the work of Chris Bennett is very influential. You should check him out. Green Gold, The Tree of Life, Marijuana in Magic and Religion was his first book, and he's moved along since then. So this is Ted's textbook series. It has its own videos on the Hempology video network on YouTube, so check that out. Subscribe to that one as well as this one. Okay, moving along. We've got Judith Stamps' article for the week. How to talk to your fellow human about legalizing marijuana. In this, Judith helps to give us some guidelines for talking one-to-one with people who may not agree with us about legalizing cannabis. One of the really great points that she makes is that instead of saying, I am the boss of my own body, or essentially that you have just the God-given right to put something into your body, which you do, but best not to start there. Because in that sense, you've just excluded your discussants' arguments or their concerns, which are really the better way to get into it. Get in on the common ground. She says, find out what the concerns are. So if they are wondering, what are your concerns? Oh, I want the kids. The kids, they might get cannabis. I don't want kids to have cannabis. So that's a good way to get in and say a legal regulated market would help to prevent kids from accessing cannabis better than an unregulated black market where kids are actually being recruited secretly to make money with something which really should be done by adults. These jobs aren't for kids and can be done a lot better in a regulated environment. So that's one example, and check out the article for some more. This is really important work, especially as we think about legalizing cannabis in more places across the world. This discussion has got to happen. Okay, moving along. We have Nick Fraley's article from the week. He's a member of, he's a staff member for the Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club. He has been working there for a little while with patients and developing new administration formats so that they can suit all the needs, because there's a variety of different specific needs that the club tries to fit for their members. Wow, one of them is suppositories. It can be very beneficial for some people to use a rectal administration over oral or inhalation. There are multiple reasons for that. One of them is that through rectal administration, your stomach and your liver, they're not involved, they don't break it down the substances, they don't produce any active metabolites which may actually increase psychoactivity when eating oral doses, but they also are more bioavailable that way. Means to say, here's this chart, the rectal administration up to 70% bioavailability. So there's a large mucous membrane in there, and it is somewhere where we can take advantage of getting cannabis into our bloodstream. So this has been a very popular article, the most popular of the week, and I recommend checking out the instructions as well. You know, don't avoid sharp things and that. So thanks, Nick, and moving right along to the next article of the week is from Dana Larson, and it's an invitation to the Sensible BC conference October 3rd to 5th. That is going to be really interesting. We've got Mason Tavert, Mark Emery, we've got Tanya Winchester from Washington. Mason Tavert is a great speaker from Colorado, and Dana Larson as well. So you can learn about multiple different things, how to be an effective volunteer, winning strategies, and get a tour of the Herb Museum over there, which is a really interesting place too. So check it out, sensiblebc.ca. Moving right along. My article of the week is the benefits of eating and vaporizing cannabis. So for many members of the VCBC who probably came into the use of cannabis through smoking, they're looking for more medicinal ways to use it, and eating it and vaporizing it together has been the path that most have found themselves on. Eating it works for longer periods of time. This is a chart to help explain this concept. And smoking it lasts, or vaporizing it even lasts for shorter period of time. So the inhalation can be within an hour. That can be good when you're waking up in the morning, if your joints are stiff, you can have a puff and that could help. Then if you're going to bed at night, instead of having to re-administer, you can just have an edible, and that would last from 5 to 8 hours and hopefully get you all the way through and have a full restful sleep. So this is my article for the week. The combination of the two can be really important, and I suggest you give it a read. Finally, we are going to cover Ted Smith's article, and he talks about the drug approval process, which leads into some of the issues raised in my trial and some things which may be important in the Supreme Court of Canada when we reach there regarding extracts for medical use. So in this article, Ted talks about how if the government is going to remedy the situation, they have to provide access to a supply of extracts, not just allow people to make them, because he refers to a decision in Hitzig in 2003 where the legal ability to provide their own cannabis was not enough, and Health Canada was forced to set up Prairie Plant Systems, which was a provider of dried cannabis that a lot of people really didn't like. So let's hope that Health Canada doesn't just make a really bad bakery full of really not very tasty things or not very effective things, because that was their record with the dried cannabis. I hope that they use the great ability that the industry of medical cannabis has to create products specific for the needs of their members, like we saw with suppositories from the VCBC. The VCBC, you can see right here, they don't necessarily stand to benefit unless regulations were written to include these kinds of stores, which is not likely. The government hasn't let on that they particularly approve or at all, and they actually we've continued to see raids on dispensaries occur in Vancouver and on the East Coast. So here's hope that we can move forward with the trial that's coming in the new year. My name's Owen Smith. That is my trial. This is the cannabisdigest.ca, and I'd be happy to see you again next week. Keep watching the blogs, and have a great week, whatever you do. Bye bye.